Make science fun for kids. That's the goal of a science journalist and author Gregory Mone.
And he's out with a new book called Atlantis, The Accidental Invasion, to get kids interested in science without actually making them anxious about it. Gregory is visiting our local favorite, R.J. Julia Booksellers, virtually tonight. And he is joining us virtually right now with a great book for your kids. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, Scott, I'd like to compliment you on your singing voice. I thought that was stirring. That was really great.
Oh, yeah, there's more where that came from.
Yeah, there's plenty more. We don't have time, though. We want to get to your book. Kids have fallen behind in science, and Earth Day is like Thursday, isn't it?
Earth Day is Thursday. That's right. And I think there is a renewed interest, actually, in science and kids' education, educating kids in science. And, in a way, even though it feels like an impossible task sometimes, kids are fundamentally curious, Yeah. And I think when you can kind of spark their imagination and their curiosity, then they really do, it isn't that hard to sell them on science.
All right.
Yeah, and especially this year, I know my kids have complained like, oh, we're not getting to do projects or workshops or labs. Everything's been so virtual. But this story, I myself just love the whole myth, or maybe it's not a myth, of the secret civilization of Atlantis. But tell us a little bit about how kids are going to learn real things in this really action-packed story you have.
Well, so, I got the idea for the book walking on the beach one day, actually collecting trash and picking up plastic. And I started thinking, well, geez, if Atlantis really existed, these people would be furious with us, right? They'd be so upset because of all the plastic that we're dumping into the ocean and the way that the climate's changing. So I started thinking about, if Atlantis really existed, what would it look like? And so I started talking to scientists, and one of my favorite scientists that I spoke with was this guy, Frank Fish, and he's a biologist. Ironically, his real name is Frank Fish. And he has a side interest. Yeah, so he has a side interest in mermaids. And my first question was, all right, so if Atlantis existed, would there be mermaids? And he started talking about what a mermaid would actually look like. And as he got into the details, he's talking, well, they'd be bald, and they'd be they wouldn't really have shoulders. They'd be kind of shapeless and more shaped like a seal. And instead of fins, they would have, instead of arms, they would have fins with maybe hands on them. And I thought, these are the ugliest mermaids I've ever heard of. And if there is an Atlantis, the first rule is no mermaids. I can't have any mermaids in this world.
Oh my God.
Now, I also, as a science journalist, I also started thinking about, what else could I add to this world to make it more interesting? And so I thought, well, if there was a secret civilization hidden beneath the ocean, they would probably have some pretty cool technology. And so I outfitted them with all kinds of wild stuff like anti-gravity gear, and their society is based more on sound and communicating. Instead of, we have all these screens, and kids are spending a lot of time on their screens these days. But in this version of Atlantis, everything's based on sound, and so all sorts of wild new technologies around that.
And it also comes with bonus content as well, right?
It does. So I think it's really important when you're, so I fundamentally believe that a great way to sort of get kids interested in science is through fiction, through adventures. I've written some books with Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
Yeah.
And, he told me, he said, Greg, look, one of the reasons I got interested in science is because I read these Tom Swift science adventure novels about this boy engineer when I was younger. So that's what kind of launched him on his career as a science communicator. Now, once I learned that, I thought, oh, well, this is great. I have such a passion for science, and I'd love to get kids to be just as passionate about it. And so that's what I started. That's when I came up for this connection. And I think, adventures and science adventures are a great way to get them interested. And then in the back of the book, I explain all the science and sort of show that, hey, I'm not making all this stuff up. This is based on real research.
Gregory, thank you so much. We're out of time, but we want to let everyone know it goes on sale tomorrow, and you can register for your virtual event. That's tonight. Go to rjjulia.com.